Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's PowerBrew. Recruitment and retention, attracting and keeping the right talent in your organization. Thank you for those of you who had an opportunity to answer our polls. We will be referring to them later in the webinar. My name is Libby Trossel, and the slide is not moving. Hold on one second. There we go. My name is Libby Trossel. I am with Advantage C, a service of Carroll Community College. I'll be moderating for the first half of today's webinar, and I apologize in advance that I have to step out for a meeting myself, but with me today also as a co-moderator is Michelle Shepard, also with Advantage C.
Good morning, everyone.
And Michelle will take good care of you when I have to step out today. So quickly, I want to give you a brief overview of Advantage C for those of you on the call maybe who are not familiar. It is a service of Carroll Community College, and Advantage C works with area businesses to help them be more effective through the power of their employees. So on your screen, you'll see that we have 4 core services. The first of which, what happened? Okay, sorry. The first, I have a little technical problem this morning. Sorry about that. The first of which is training. Consulting, we also work with businesses to help them in their process improvement. Facilitation, we can do strategic plan facilitation, among other types of facilitation such as focus groups. And assessment, we can actually measure competency levels of your employees in certain aspects, and as well as take a climate survey for your organization. So I just want to draw you to these services that we provide. I think everybody may be aware we provide training for area employers, but they may not be aware of the other services. And I challenge you to go out to our website and read more. There's many testimonials and much more information out at www.advantage-c.com.
Okay, so just some housekeeping here. I know a lot of you that have joined us for these Power Brews in the past are familiar with your control panel, but for those of you who are joining us for the first time today, just a quick look at how to collapse and expand your screen. There's a red-orange arrow at the top there that will collapse so you can see more of the presentation. There's also a webinar tab there that you're able to move around the video. Whenever Jill starts to present, you'll see her up on your screen, and you can kind of move her around or hide her altogether and just listen to audio if you prefer. At the bottom right, there is also a pane for you to go ahead and submit questions. And as many of you know, we love these Power Brews to be interactive. We welcome questions. We will get to questions throughout the webinar as time permits. And for those questions that we are unable to get to, we will follow up through email with those. So again, we love questions. So feel free to go ahead and pop those into that pane right there. Back to you, Libby.
Okay, so without further ado, as they say, I want to take an opportunity to introduce you to Jill Hermes, who joined Advantage C in October of this past year, or last year, I guess I should say, and we are very thrilled to have her. So a little bit about her background. First of all, she earned her Master's of Arts in Human Sciences from Hood College, and she earned her undergraduate degree in Human Resource Management, also from Hood. And she is from the Frederick, Maryland area, but right over the Carroll County line, not too far outside of Mount Airy. And we really love having her on her staff. So Jill meets with area businesses to talk to them about their training needs. And before coming to Carroll, she spent about 20 years in corporate recruiting and staffing. And most recently, she served as in the career services area as the director at Hood College. And she's also been very active in Frederick County, serving on the Mental Health Association Board and working with the Frederick County Workforce Development Board. So she's passionate about helping employees be successful in the workplace and helping organizations be successful. And as you'll hear today, that really starts with a great recruiting and selection process. That is the key. So she's going to share her expertise with you today, and we're thrilled to have her on board. And I will go ahead and pass it off to Jill. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Libby. I'm thrilled to be here. Bear with me while I do a little technical stuff here. There we go. Hello. Okay. So as Libby said, today we're going to address recruitment and retention and talk about attracting and keeping the right people in your organization. Last month, we had the privilege of talking about mindfulness, and then next month, we're also going to build on this recruitment and retention theme and be a little more specific. So today will be a little broader, and as we've said, we want your input, so we'll just go through this and dive in. One of the reasons that we selected this topic is because wherever we go, when we're talking with area employers, they're telling us that this is something that they are struggling with, right? They're talking about it's really tough to find the right people, and it's really tough to keep them once we find them. So it doesn't matter whether you're a manufacturing firm, whether you're in the financial industry or education or something in between, this can relate to all of us. So in today's presentation, we're going to explore several areas. We're going to talk about what does it take to create a talent pipeline, and really what in the world is that anyway? We're going to look at the current challenges in talent acquisition. There are many challenges facing us. We're going to talk about employee retention and employee engagement, and really how does that relate to this whole topic? What does employee engagement mean? It's one of those buzzwords that I feel like everyone's saying, but it might mean something different to each of us. We're also going to talk a bit about, how our organizational culture can relate to recruitment and retention, how the culture that we create can be a help in our recruitment efforts or maybe even a hindrance. And then we're also going to talk about what it means to be relevant to our prospective employees. So that first bullet, when I talk about a talent pipeline, so that's really all about being proactive in our recruitment efforts instead of waiting till we're in a bind and we've already had people leave the organization, or maybe they've left, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, and we start to think about replacing them. So today's presentation is going to talk about being proactive. This slide I love. Great vision without great people is irrelevant. And that is the truth. People are our best resources. We invest a lot in them, and we really want to talk about getting the best return on our investment. So when we think about just creating a toolkit for creating this talent pipeline that I'm talking about, we want to do several things. We want to have a strategic plan in mind for our recruitment process. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is to really know what you're looking for before you dive into the recruitment process, because it's an investment not only of your finances, but of your time, right? So one of the questions that we put out for polling was about what qualities do you look for in a new employee? So I love to get this information from people because I love to find out what makes people tick, what's important to us. And if we know this before we dive into the recruitment process, we're going to be much better off. Thanks, Libby. See you later. So some of you said you look for employees who are articulate. Being articulate's important. We want people with good communication skills for sure. A few of you talked about high energy and being driven. And the most popular answer was being self-aware, which I'm thrilled about because that is another topic out there. If you Google being self-aware, you are not going to have any shortage of research or white papers to dive into. Is another one of those topics. We want employees who know how their style, their communication, their actions not only impact their own world, but the world around them, the world of their colleagues, of their clients, of the stakeholders around them. That's really important. And How do we teach it? If someone doesn't have it, can we teach it? We'll talk about that. So anyway, so know that before you dive in. Online presence and job boards. We can't get around this, folks. We have to have a strong online presence. Doesn't matter if you're a large corporation or a small entity. Some of these issues will be out of our budgets, but some of them have to be checked off for every single kind of firm. So you probably need a website that is easy to navigate, and you need to find out what job boards appeal to the folks that you're reaching out to. Social media platforms. Boy, we hear so much about social media, and next month we're actually going to do a real dive deeply into that specific topic and how to use it for the best recruitment process. But today, in a broader sense, we've all heard of Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Do we use those to recruit? If we do, how do we do it to the best way to be effective? So we'll talk about that. We have to be tech savvy. And I'm here to admit I am an old school kind of a gal. So if I can try to be tech savvy, so can you. It's all about finding the right people, doing the things that will speak to them, get them attracted to your organization. We might not all be able to afford developing an app for an application process, but we just want to be aware of it, right? Because as we go through this process, or this presentation today, I want you to keep 2 words in mind: talent shortage. That's what we are experiencing right now. It's a talent shortage, okay? So if the market were different, if the business climate looked differently, then we may have a different philosophy when it comes to recruitment and retention. But right now, we're very fortunate. We're having a thriving economic situation, and one of the consequences to that can be low unemployment rates. So nationally, statewide, and certainly Carroll County, we have low unemployment rates, which that's great, except when you're recruiting. Makes another challenge. So internal efforts, such as employee referrals, that is never going to go out of style. It has so many benefits, right? It's pretty much low cost. There's not a big cash outlay for that. And it lets your employees know, hey, we trust you. We value your opinion. You've been reliable. You've brought creative ideas to us, and we want you to bring in the folks that are in your world. So that's a great retention tool as well as recruitment. Collaborative relationships. I really can't say enough about this because, as with any business topic, collaborative relationships are key to our success. So education. Well, I work for Carroll Community College, so of course I'm going to be pro-education when you think about how to recruit. But what does that look like to you? Does it mean that you should go out and select an intern for your organization? Sure, that's a great idea. Invest in developing some talent and the education of a student who very well may end up being one of your prize employees one day. Does it mean coming to classes to speak on the topic of your industry? Sure. Or sitting on an advisory board where you actually share your concerns about the future of your industry so that you can be proactive, there's that word again, and you can say to the people who are helping to plan for and develop curriculum, hey, in 5 years, when these students graduate, I need them to be well-versed in this skill set. So please address that now. So we want our education to be relevant to the needs of our workforce in the future. So that's really important. Also, attend job fairs at your schools, whether it's depending upon the kind of organization you are. Sorry, I think I might have made a technical glitch there. Can everybody still hear me okay? Depending upon the kind of organization that you are, you may be talking to high schools or colleges or a variety of other post-secondary kind of educational institutions. But relate to them, get involved with them and have conversations. Attend job fairs. All those kinds of things are important. Boards. When I say that, I'm talking about your time. If you have passion and have the ability to sit on a board of directors somewhere where you can sow into the community, that's important in itself. And then it's also an opportunity to practice some creative recruiting. So you're meeting with other people in the community. You're sitting on committees. You are helping to raise money. You are really investing together. And oftentimes, let's face it, you're running to these meetings after work. You've had a busy day, and you're meeting with people from around the community that you form these relationships with, and you're getting to know what their strengths are. So that maybe in 2 years, when one of those individuals is looking for a new opportunity, you've already created that relationship and that bond, and hopefully created a good reputation for yourself and your organization, and that person becomes a potential employee. And besides, it's just the right thing to do, right, to serve in our community. And then, of course, public relations. What is the face that you're presenting to the public about your organization? What's the story that you're telling, the picture that you're painting? What do people think of when they hear the name of your organization, that kind of vision that they have in their mind? And then finally, I spent all those years in recruiting, so I'm going to say professional recruiters can be a great resource. If you are a human resource generalist, or just person who owns a company, or you work in a variety of capacities and recruitment is one of your many roles, then you may not have a lot of time to devote to a recruitment process. So it oftentimes makes sense to reach out to someone who is doing that 100% of the time and help you find something, especially if it's a very niche, very technical skill, right? Because we know time is money and your time is valuable. Consider the candidate experience. Okay, what do these words even mean, and do they even go together? Well, again, because we're in this talent shortage situation, this is something we have to think about. There's actually a thing out there called Global Candidate Preferences Survey, and the Manpower Group has this survey available for your viewing. And because Manpower has access to so many employees and employers, they can put out some really top-notch information and resources for us. So I'm just going to say this. When I graduated from college, here was my candidate experience expectation. If someone invited me to interview with their organization, my response would be, thank you. And if they offered me an opportunity at that organization to work, my kind of negotiating strategy would be not to even ask what the salary was going to be, maybe just to take the job. I'm not saying that's the right way to be, but times have changed and those days are gone. Okay, candidates are savvy. They negotiate not just for salary, but for an entire compensation package. They even negotiate for kind of workplace trends, right? Can I bring my dog to work? Can I wear jeans every day? All those things that are important to some of the people that really have the skills and talents that you need for your organization. So maybe in a different climate, we wouldn't have to think about the candidate experience so much. But in this one, we do. As I was pulling together research for this presentation, I would search different things. And remember when we looked for how to interview well, and it would teach us how to present ourselves well to an employer? Well, now there's just as much research out there about how the employer needs to represent themselves to the candidate, how they need to create a space and a physical surrounding that's pleasant, and just all these things we need to consider to paint our organization in the best possible light. So that first bullet, application process convenience. Those are 3 words that don't really go together, right? Is filling out an application supposed to be convenient? Yes, it is. That's something we have to think about. Candidates are saying they don't want to spend a lot of time filling out an application. And they certainly want to be able to do that from their mobile device. They want to have their phone there and apply online and move on. And if the time commitment is too much, they might just not do it. I realize this requires a new mindset from employers. It certainly does for me. And I would just say, is it worth maybe missing out on attracting somebody who's going to bring great, fresh vision to your organization because we are not willing to say, hey, let's think about this? And I'll tell you the best thing we can do, it's so practical. Put yourself in the shoes of an applicant. So okay, let's just say I'm a small organization, Jill. I do not have money to build some app to put on a phone so some high maintenance individual can apply to my company. What you can do though is go through the process just like they would. If you have a website or you advertise on a variety of job boards or in the paper or whatever you choose to do, go through the process yourself. And if there are software glitches where you keep getting timed out of the application process, or it just doesn't make sense, or it's unclear as to the next steps, then maybe you need to update it. We invest so much time and energy and money into finding the right people for our organization. Let's not mess it up because the process has some little fine problem in it that we might not ever know because we've never tried it. I hope that makes sense to people. Okay, moving on. This is a great quote. I'm convinced that nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you bet on people, not on strategies. And that's the truth. And that's why this is so fun, right? It can be exasperating and frustrating, but we're investing in people because that's what makes our organization successful. Which brings me to this topic. Retention is your best recruitment tool. I will preach this all day long. And in addition, it's one of those things that's not only the right thing to do, but it just makes sense, right? It's a huge investment. We bring people on board. We spend so much time orienting them, training them, getting them acclimated. We want them to stay. We want them to be productive, feel valued. We also want to show that we really appreciate our staff, and that's going to be just pay dividends in morale and productivity and engagement. All those things are linked together, right? So in addition, when you're thinking about that pipeline, right, that talent pipeline, because we don't want to wait till we're already have had, several people leave our organization to think about filling those holes. We want to think about filling those holes before those people are gone. And we want to think about who can we develop within the organization to maybe step into an elevated role? Who can we cross-train? That makes people feel very valued, and valued people are more productive. People who feel valued are more productive. Yes, Michelle, do you have a question?
We do. I think that's perfect for this slide and this topic. So the question is, what is the number one reason people quit their jobs?
Number one reason people quit their jobs. That is a great question. And do we ever really know the truth, right? Do we really ever know the honest answer? But when we look out there, what does research say? People don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Ouch, right? That hurts to hear. But again, let's look at retention as a recruitment tool. How do we create a climate where people want to stay, and not only want to stay, but want to stay and be productive, right? So people quit when they feel frustrated, when they feel like they're not being heard. And I'm just going to say, I'm sorry if this sounds fluffy, right? Because I really operate in not so fluffy of a world. I like black and white hard statistics, but the data tells us that this is why people move on, right? So something to keep in mind. So let's talk about this whole employee engagement thing, right? Let's keep these good employees at our company being productive, being more productive, and sharing their good ideas. Why? I like these numbers, and I won't go through all of them, but let's just say 41% less absenteeism because of an engaged employee group. It doesn't matter what kind of organization you are. You need your employees to be present in order to be productive and profitable and meet your goals, right? So if I can do things that help decrease absenteeism, I'm going to do them. And it's going to make a better organization. And it's going to mean less time recruiting if I can retain. 70% less in safety accidents. How many people know, of course, we never want our employees to be hurt. There's the first thing. And secondly, are safety accidents expensive? It can make or break you. depending upon your safety record. So these are things, this is from a white paper entitled The ROI of Talent Management. Again, it's all about your return on investment in this climate where there's a talent shortage. So when we manage to have employees who are engaged, what are some of the things that we'll see? We'll see folks who are enthusiastic about their work. We'll see people who take positive action because they're not just thinking about themselves and their little task. They're actually, they're moving from task to role, right? What is their role in the organization? How does it fit in? So engaged employees understand how their role plays a significant factor in the whole outcome of the organization, and that's on us to teach them, to show them, and to show them that it's important to us. There's dedication and eagerness. There's people being passionate about work. They feel that their efforts really make a difference. That's key. How do people feel that their efforts make a difference? And they're satisfied and accountable. That word accountable is a whole nother presentation on itself. We have people asking us, hey, we're serious about creating a climate of accountability. And you'll have to tune in again someday for that presentation. But accountability and engagement go hand in hand. And we not only want to make people feel valued for the things they offer and their creative problem solving and make them feel valued, we're also going to hold them accountable when things go wrong. It doesn't mean that we're punitive, but it means that we address it and we have a climate where we can talk about, hey, we tried this didn't work well. This resulted in some errors in our product. So let's switch it up. Let's talk about how to fix it. Rules of engagement. Let's talk a little bit about, one of the questions was, what does employee engagement mean to you, or how do you define it? And you guys are on it, right? Regular dialogue about problem solving. And that is so key, right? Because first of all, people have to be brave enough to bring their ideas to you. They have to feel like they're not going to be embarrassed if it's off kilter. They're not going to get fired if they say something that's not fitting in. So these are all ways for us to create an environment where retention thrives, right? We might even have metrics that we need to meet in order to move forward ourselves. And if one of those metrics is a certain percentage of retaining our current employees, these are things we want to be thinking about. Why? Because there's a talent shortage and it's tough recruitment out there. So of course I'm going to talk about professional development. That is such a key way to make your employees feel valued and, quite frankly, to increase their productivity. If you can impart a new skill, new knowledge, then you've got somebody out there who's doing more work, doing more productivity for your company, feeling more engaged. And that goes along with a culture of respect. Diversity, that third bullet, there's a word that we throw around a lot, right? I think it means different things to different people. But one of the things that I like to think about is, in the past, perhaps we've recruited with a mindset that said, hey, we're looking for someone who's going to be a good fit in our organization. And we had an idea of what that fit was, right? And that there's nothing wrong with that. People need to fit in, and we need to be able to collaborate, get along, communicate. But what if we switched it up a little bit and thought, hey, instead of being a cultural fit, what if someone was kind of a cultural, I don't know, kick in the pants, like showed us how to approach things differently. So they're still going to be a collaborative partner, but they're from a different background, whether it's racially, ethnically, geographically, age-wise, from a whole different industry with a different educational background. Research shows us that when people with diverse mindsets come together and collaborate, rich options are created, okay? Much more rich than if we're all of the same mindset. If we hire people that all have the same strengths, we're still going to have a whole, right, where they all have the same weakness. So let's mix it up. Let's make ourselves a little bit out of our comfort zone. Here's my favorite slide. I love this slide because it imparts hope, and I'm all about hope. Employability depends less on what you already know and more on how well you can learn, apply, and adapt. So maybe I like this slide so much because I think, okay, there are a lot of areas I need to learn more about, right? I fall short in some areas. So this tells me that I have the option to invest and learn and apply those new things and keep growing. And this is how we create a workforce that's engaged. And there's no promises that people will stay forever. And maybe we don't even want them to stay forever. But this gives us a way to navigate this talent shortage, right? Now, I'm going to take a sip of water, excuse me. So why professional development and employee training? Did you have a question, Michelle?
We did have a question, and I think it tied in with you talking about culture and people fitting in. What is attractive to millennials? Talking about generational, differences in the workforce today. What is attractive to millennials in an organizational culture?
That is a great question. One we keep trying to figure out, right? Because sometimes the answer changes. Just when we think we have the answer, they shift a little bit. Gosh darn it, they just keep growing and developing and making it tough for us to keep up. But what they're telling us is that it's not the picture of 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or just being productive, right? They need more. They need meaning and purpose. They need some civic engagement. They need to go to work and feel as though they're not only being productive at work, but they're making a positive impact in their community and their world. So that's some great opportunity for us to say, wow, what are you really passionate about, Mr. and Ms. Millennial? You're interested in the environment? Well, hey, let's create a special project. Even if we're a small organization, even if over half of our employees are very entry-level folks, right? It doesn't matter the kind of size or the makeup of the demographics. You can say to someone to help them enrich their job, we need help with, I don't know, recycling. We've never done that in this building. So can you help us be better about that? Can you make a plan? Or, we've said we're paperless for a long time, but can you help us look at that? So these are things that people can use to enrich the opportunity for a millennial or anyone else who shares these passions, right? So think about this. So it's the purpose driven, it's the work-life balance, right? So we have to think about that. When there's not a talent shortage, maybe we don't address these things. But if a large population of people is saying to us, I really want to work from home a few days a week or a day a week. In the past, we might have said, I'm sorry, that's not an option. But now maybe we try to build some flexibility in. And certainly not every millennial wants the same thing, right? So we have a conversation. What's important to you? What's going to make a difference to you for you to feel engaged here in our organization? And then if we can consider some options, we do. So this is the sentence that I really like in this slide. It says, people will feel valued for their contribution. They'll understand what the organization supports them to be the best they can be. That's the theme you keep hearing me say, right? Learning and development provides the means to do that. So when your employees get to attend a conference or some other kind of professional development or attend a session where they get to brainstorm and share their ideas, it looks different to all of us, right? Maybe you're a company that uses a flip chart and marker. I'm all about that. I love that. Maybe you're a high-tech company who wouldn't dream of doing that, but you have some things online, some other tools. Just whatever your personality is, you can incorporate your corporate personality into your employee development plan. And if you don't know how, I know some folks who could help you at Advantage C. Oops, here we go. So when we're living in this world of the talent shortage, 48% of employers are saying that they do training and development for their existing employees in order to fill open positions. That seems pretty creative to me. Maybe we haven't always done that. But If we go down here, we can see that people are offering training and development to existing staff. Maybe you even give them a little buy-in on that. Maybe you take a poll and say, hey, what do you think some areas that you could improve upon are, or some opportunities for improvement? You can spin that however you want. They have to feel safe before they can share that. Alternative sourcing strategies, we've talked about that. Providing additional perks and benefits. Perks and benefits don't always have to cost money. Sometimes they do. But again, it's just allowing ourselves to consider things that, quite frankly, we didn't have to consider in the past. Higher salary packages, we know that's going to be asked for, and so we just have to think about it as we make our budgets, right? And then also changing existing work models. And I don't know that I talked about this when I was talking about interviewing and recruitment, but I will say this. You want to make sure that your staff has good interviewing skills, right? You do not want to invest a lot of time and money into interviewing candidates and then find out, you know, we didn't ask the right questions. We didn't even do a reference check. Well, those are things that are just critical to this process. And so I wanted to mention that depending upon the level of employee that you're recruiting, it's tough to get reference information. And sometimes, you know, we call these numbers and we're lucky to even get dates of employment confirmed. But if you're talking to a seasoned professional who's been in the workforce for a while, you want to put that responsibility on them. And, you know, make it an opportunity for them to show off their problem-solving skills to you, because we need that reference information. We need to talk to someone who's worked with them and find out all legal questions that we want to find out, right? But just work habits and dedication and style, and would you employ these people again if you can go down that road? So those are things to think about. Your culture and your brand. That Google pool table, who can afford to have a pool table? You know, not everybody can do that. But we can all create a culture that is appealing to the talent out there that we want to get in our organization, right? So maybe that means, you know, something as simple as dress down day once a week. I don't know, if I were going to ask some folks what would make it a difference for you. I mentioned that whole bring your dog to work thing. That's important to some people, and certainly not everyone can do that, but sometimes you can. If you're a smaller, more nimble organization, you might be able to accommodate something like that. Or certainly some team building activities that just make it a little more pleasant. I personally want a smoothie bar. I want to have one of those, like fresh fruit and all kinds of crazy vitamins that I can get, spinach in there and all that kind of thing. I want to have that at work because I'm really, you know, I would go for the Twinkies or something else if given the opportunity. So if I have those healthy options, I'll be happy. So you have to think about who you want to attract, right? And you want to just be aware. Everywhere you go, you represent your organization, not only to potential clients, but to potential employees. And here's the thing. We've all known this concept in our work worlds, whether you're you know, a big fancy organization or whether you're a small mom and pop organization. We know that whatever room we walk into, there's potentially a client there for us, a new connection, a way to expand our business and our profitability. What we maybe haven't been thinking of is there's also in that same room a potential employee, right? So, or someone who knows a potential employee, lives next door to, has a son or daughter, mother, father, who could be a potential employee. And that relates back to creating that pipeline. Before you ever have a need that you're aware of, before John or Susie or whomever leaves their desk, you've already got connections, relationships out there that can work for you in the recruitment process. That empty seat or empty spot in your organization costs too much money to start thinking about it once the person's already gone. Reality check. It's never my favorite part of any presentation, the reality check. But employees will leave. You know, in this climate, we're fortunate to have someone for 5 years. Sometimes this current generation will spend 1 to 1.5 years at a spot and feel like they've really maxed out there. And there's no new opportunity. That's something else that millennials want. They want an avenue and a path to not only move up the ladder, but to have more responsibility and do more significant work. So Michelle, please let me know if I missed something that a question that I need to address. Just give me a signal, okay?
Will do. We have some questions we'll get to at the end. So.
Okay, so they're going to leave. So that's why we need to be proactive. So this next term, if you were ever a student who walked into my Career Center, you heard me say it about 1,000,000 times. Cast a wide net with your tools. When I was talking to students, I meant that in terms of their career search, right? Because oftentimes people choose one method and they devote so much time and energy into one method, and that's not the right method. So we have to be integrative when we approach our recruitment process as well, and our retention process, okay? So just like someone trying to find a career has to read the paper, look at Indeed, look at different job boards, look at LinkedIn, look at Facebook, go to networking opportunities, do all those things together, so do we as a recruiter, right? So we have to use those newfangled technology tools in conjunction with the old school tools. So I'm all about a local newspaper. There's great value in that. I'm all about going to your Chamber of Commerce networking events. That is very valuable for so many different reasons, not just for new clients, but for new employees and building community relationships. And they all work together, right? Plus, you're going to have the exchange of ideas. You're going to meet people who share with you a successful recruitment plan that they've put into place in their organization, that you might take pieces and build your own. Cast a wide net. It's important. Oh, because here's the other thing. So students would often be so discouraged and deflated because they applied for one job and put all their eggs in that one basket and it didn't work out. Well, guess what? We can do that as recruiters too. We can be looking so intently for one kind of person that we've had in the past that was successful, that we miss out on some folks who might be very different with the skill set and experience they bring to the table, but may offer just the fresh vision that our organization needs. Just a different mindset. So I talked about serving the community. I can't really talk about that enough. I think it's just a smart thing to do. Your interviewing tools, make sure that they're a fit for you. Make sure that they're nimble enough. Now, I know that if you're a big organization, you've got some pretty rigid policies and practices for recruitment, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have to be in compliance, and obviously the first thing is we have to make sure they're legal with our HR standards, right? But just think about this as you make your policies, whether you're big or small. If you must post things internally and externally once you have an opening, and you must create a search committee, and you must have 3 interviews before you can make an offer, where's the flexibility in that plan? With this talent shortage that we're experiencing, let's say you go through your process, you get to the 2nd interview, and this awesome candidate says to you, hey, I love it here. I have another offer or 2 on the table, and I need to make a decision within a week. And the old you says, oh, well, that's not part of our process. We have at least 3 more weeks before we make a decision. And you lose that potentially great candidate, and you start over. The new you, who is cognizant of the talent shortage, may say, hey, let's try to be a little more nimble here. I'm so glad we built some flexibility into our policy that says how we can maybe navigate this, how we can just be more flexible in order to secure the right talent for organization. Just something to think about. So finally, I just wanted to say a few words about staying relevant. And again, this sounds like a buzzword. Jill, this sounds like just these words you pulled out that have nothing to do with recruitment and retention. But I think they do. I think it's really important for us to create an organizational culture that's relevant for these folks that we want to come work with us. And that will look different depending upon whether you're big, small, what your mission is, whether you're looking for entry-level employees, mid-level, or seasoned executives. So you have to just think about, okay, first of all, what's our mission statement? What are our core values? And maybe we need to go back to that. Maybe we need to go back to our strategic plan and update it. Hey, do we even have a mission statement? I'm telling you, millennials look at your website to see your mission statement before they apply. Many of them do. Many individuals across the board do. And if they can't find your mission statement or your core values, that could be a red flag. And let's say you have a group of employees working for you currently. Do they know what it is? Is there an opportunity to see it on the wall, on the website, in their office, to hear it at staff meetings, to talk about it, to update it? It's all about being relevant, okay? And this last bullet, you must constantly tell the story of your organization to be attractive to the right talent. Here's why this is important. Let's say you're doing everything right. You're investing in some great technology to make sure you're able to recruit and reach the folks that you're looking for. You have created an awesome employee culture where people are engaged, where people are exchanging ideas without fear, where people are having a great dialogue. But then you don't tell the story. Then you miss out on the credit. And we have to tell the story internally and externally. So let's tell the story first to our current staff, whatever tools you want to use, a newsletter, a poster, a tweet. You figure out what works for you and what fits your organizational personality, and talk about the good stuff that's happening. Celebrate success. You know, some of those old school things are still very, very valued. A pizza lunch to develop that camaraderie, and talk about, hey, John brought this awesome idea to the table and it's resulted in 22% increase in profits. And here's how he did it. So all those things are great. Or, hey, we sent this team to employee development. They learned this new skill, and here's how our organization has benefited. Tell the story. And then, of course, you want to tell the story externally. And again, you have to decide, let's see, do we share that story on our Facebook page? Do we even have a Facebook page? Do we tell that story on our website? Do we have a press release? Do we have a networking event where we invite the community in and tell the story? You decide, but it is really important to share the story, or you won't get credit for your hard work. And now, questions and answers. Do we have any questions?
We do. Among the other ones that I've asked you earlier, we have a good question. And I know your buzzwords for today were talent shortage, so it's about talent shortage. So if there is a talent shortage, why are some companies pushing the most experienced workers out the door?
Oh, that's a great question. Why would we do that? So there might be a variety of answers. The obvious one is they don't see the value in those employees. So let's think about ways that we can express that value. So as employees, but one thing a mentor of mine talked to me about when I first entered the workforce, and it seems so kind of cheesy, but they encouraged me to keep like a journal of accomplishments. Well, now I think that's called LinkedIn, but I still like to do that. And so I feel it's important as employees to remind our superiors, hey, remember when I came up with this project and it increased profits here? So that's one way that we could maybe deal with that, right, before it happens. But I think it's something that organizations have to think about. Hey, we want to recruit fresh talent, but we want to keep our experience here. And maybe that's part of the mindset change that has to happen, because our experienced employees, while they may not have some of the new skills, have a lot of wisdom they can bring to the table. So that's something that I feel does need to be addressed. And and maybe think about some cost-saving ways to deal with salary discrepancies, which each organization is going to face differently. But maybe there's some flexibility. Maybe someone is at a point in their life where they can work part-time. Say, okay, I know that my salary is really high and you're bringing in these new folks, and quite frankly, I don't want to work all the time anyway. Let's think about how we can fix this or deal with this. Those are just ideas, and that's a topic that we could really talk about for a long time. But I think that in this talent shortage, we need to just think about ways to really keep that wisdom in our companies. Any other questions to address?
Thanks, Jill. We do have one last question. I know it's getting close to 9 o'clock, so we're going to wrap it up here soon. But the last question is, I think I can answer this, but I'm going to go ahead and let you speak to it.
Oh, no, you.
No, you can. Does Advantage C offer training that deals with interviewing skills?
That's a great question. We sure do. Advantage C does offer training that can speak to interviewing skills, right? So we have some great curriculum about how to build a winning team, right?
I just wanted to chime in and say that there is a class tomorrow. Building a winning team, interviewing skills tomorrow. So
can people still sign up?
They can sign up. There's still room.
Awesome. Okay. The other thing to think about with that is, if tomorrow doesn't suit your schedule, is reach out to us and we can actually customize that class to fit into your specific needs as an organization. So we can address that. We can address a lot of these topics. How do you build a more engaged workforce? How do you build a selection process that is the most effective and efficient for you? We want to protect your resources. We know they're limited. So, and if you think of other questions, please chime in, and if you write them in, I will address them. I'll send you an email and address them, or pick up the phone and call you. And if I don't know the answer, which is very possible, I'll do the research and we can find out together. I did want to mention that next month, our presenter will be Missy Wilcox, and she'll talk specifically about social media as a recruiting tool. I'm excited about this. I know when I was doing research for this presentation, I talked to some senior recruiters and they said to me, oh, Jill, social media is the new thing for this. It doesn't matter what kind of organization you are, you need to be using Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter to attract talent. So she's going to share some tricks of the trade with us, and I look forward to that. I've enjoyed today so much. Thank you for chiming in with your insights and questions, and I look forward to talking to you. Is there anything else, Michelle?
Nope, I think you've covered it. I just wanted to thank you again. I think this was really insightful for a lot of different people, even those that might not necessarily deal with recruiting. I know I found a lot of value in certain areas of your presentation that I can take with me today. So hopefully our audience feels the same. And again, we thank you guys all for joining us. We love that a lot of you tune in every month. So we're excited to have you back for the 2-part series on March 20th. So we'll have the website updated later today. Should go live tomorrow with a link to go ahead and sign up for that. So I know a lot of you get our email, so look for those, and we'll see you next month. Have a great rest of your day. It should be nice and sunny out there today.
Thanks. Bye.